the spare tire cover that was tested by a National Laboratory?
Move to strike.
That's it.
Yes, sir.
Overruled on that basis. Let me show you why.
Also beyond the scope, Judge.
Response as beyond the scope.
Well, I haven't asked the question yet. Okay. The question I'm going to ask has to do with bleach.
Okay. Overruled at this point.
You see State Exhibit 139.
Yes.
Take it. You would accept the first of my question that this is the spare tire cover that was portion of which was tested by the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. All right. See any bleach stains on that?
Not that are apparent to me. There's a whole big, the portion that was,
Overruled.
Judge, the question he just asked him, there's a missing part that was
Overruled.
inspected.
The chemical reactions that you're referring to that could coincidentally create chloroform don't happen in a vacuum. They don't create just chloroform, do they?
Organic compounds, correct.
Particularly the reaction between bleach or the active ingredient bleach and organic compounds creates more than just chloroform. It creates other compounds, correct?
Yes, in fact, carbon tetrachloride is more abundant than chloroform.
Pardon me?
Carbon tetrachloride is even more abundant than chloroform in things like bleach.
Bleach, right. But you would expect that if bleach were spilled upon a dark fabric surface, that the dark fabric surface would reflect some evidence of bleach having been spilled on it, wouldn't you?
Overruled.
If the source of the bleach was being placed directly on the carpet, then yes.
All right. Now, but even in that circumstance, there would be other chemical signatures to show that that reaction had occurred between the active ingredient in bleach and organic components. Some specific bromides, I think, were discussed earlier in this trial. Is that correct? Are you familiar with that?
During my testimony?
No. Are you familiar with the other chemicals that are created by the accidental, the process that creates chloroform through the contact between chlorine and organic material creates more than just chlorine? What are the other things it creates?
I know that it can create other things. I don't know of anybody who's done a peer-reviewed study on that, and it wasn't in any of the reports I was asked to review.
So you don't have any idea whether that coincidental reaction that you suggested would have left other indicia that are not in this case, or weren't found. Did you understand my question? That may have been inartfully done.
Yes, no, I understand it. It may have, but that would need to be researched and published in order to use that as part of an analysis.
Did you research to determine whether there are articles in peer-reviewed publications that discuss that accidental creation of chloroform and what else is created?
There were no articles that I came across in my research or that I was made aware of.
Did you find an article in an Iranian journal that discussed that coincidental creation of chloroform?
And
do you recall that?
No, I never had a Iranian. I would think I would have remembered an Iranian journal article.
So your research in this area only went as far as that. Yes, it can be accidentally created, but not deeper into what else might be created, so we could determine whether it actually happened or not.
No, the fact that there's so many things that can happen is exactly why I have the opinion that I have, which is that this is an ongoing research study that needs to be analyzed in order to make those determinations. One journal article in an Iranian journal wouldn't be sufficient to be relied upon to make a conclusion in a forensic case.
But how many articles are you relying upon in telling this jury that chloroform can be accidentally created through the combination of chlorine and organic compounds. How many articles are you relying on for that you tell this jury?
Well, I just gave one. I have one example article that I put in my report just to give as an example, but there are many, many other sources of chloroform.
And what did that article say about the other compounds that are created by this coincidental creation of chloroform?
I don't recall. As I said, I'm not involved in, I wasn't trying to come up with an interpretation of a particular outcome. The idea was to illustrate that chloroform and carbon tetrachloride were relied upon as 2 of the 5 compounds to determine that there's a human origin, but we know that they can come from non-human sources.
So you weren't trying to figure out where they actually came from, you were just trying to see if there was some other explanation that you could come up with.
No, I was trying to see where they came from, which is that they did not, and also the reason we compared to other studies is whether they came from a human origin or that they could come from a consumer origin. But I'm not saying they had to come from bleach. I'm saying there are any number of potential sources that the chloroform could come from. That was one example.
Exactly, and each one of those sources, chloroform comes with something else, correct?
With everything comes with something else. That's what involves in chemistry.
In determining whether any particular appearance of chloroform is due to one of those sources, all you have to do is look to see if those other things are also there.
Yeah, that was not done in this study, in this report. That's exactly my point. And
you didn't do it either.
No, because I have the opinion that it's not possible at this moment. It's ongoing research. That would be later on, once compounds are identified. If chloroform were a characteristic compound for human decomposition, then that would be very important to do to see what levels it is relative to things that could be from non-human decomposition.
But as far as whether the chloroform in this case came from someone mixing chloroform and deliberately administering it to a child versus it being created by some accidental reaction, you didn't really go too far into figuring out which one it was. Would that be fair to say?
That's correct.
The same thing with its presence in butter or cheese. There are other things that should have been found. Let me withdraw the question. Isn't chloroform a carcinogen?
Yes, it is.
And it's in butter and cheese?
Yes, like I said, if you start looking at what toxic chemicals are present in the environment, it can be a little bit scary because they are present at various levels in many common compounds.
In very, very, very small amounts, correct? In the parts per billion range.
Typically a part per billion or low part per million in some cases.
In what substances does it appear in a low parts per million range?
It would typically be the more fatty materials like cheeses or butters, although some pasta products have also been reported to have high levels.
In low parts per million range?
Yes.
Is there an FDA limit on how much chloroform can be in a product, a food product?
Yes.
What's that limit?
I don't recall the limit off the top of my head.
Is it in the parts per billion range?
Yes, it's in the low level.
Okay. And in water, it appears in drinking water. You're talking about?
Yes, in low levels.
In the parts per billion range.
Correct. And sometimes even lower.
Now, let's talk for a moment about some of your PowerPoints. Can we pull up that PowerPoint again and go through it?